Watching Daisy with Adam, I mean, she's got such an incredible ability to play strength and vulnerability at the same time. All the things that are sort of, frankly, less interesting to talk about than to watch. But she's just got this incredible range where it's like she's tough, she's terrified, she's got a kind of irony, but she's really earnest. I mean, it's this crazy dichotomy that's just resonant and alive, and it takes an incredibly skilled and open actor to do these things, and certainly Daisy and Adam both bring this electricity to it that makes it frankly thrilling to work with them and be on set. John is just such a wonderful actor and has just such a great range and an amazing sense of rhythm and humor, and I mean he's so funny. His delivery is great, and he's a wonderful actor to work with to bring this particular character to life. Their dynamic in life kind of mirrors their dynamic as these characters. I mean, you can't find two people who have more of a sort of wonderful love and respect for each other than Daisy and John. Oscar and John are literally hysterical together. Oscar and Daisy have I mean, it really is this lucky thing where we happen to cast these actors who, bring these characters to life, and yet at the same time, what the story that we're telling strangely mirrors the dynamic that they have on set. So it's a funny thing, kind of watching watching them when I say cut. They're sort of still just doing their thing because that's naturally who they are. It's kind of wonderful. For me, getting to watch him conduct, hearing the music that he's written, being part of at all, his remarkable body of work was just an opportunity I could not possibly say no to, and I think when you hear the new cues that he has written for the movie, some of them are just so moving and beautiful. Some are just wonderful, and they're kind of evil and sort of bombast. Some are just crazy, powerful in their energy and tension. And he's just like no other composer. So I can't obviously say enough about the man or his work, and it goes without saying he's taken everything that we've done and elevated it to be so much more and so much better. But I'm just in awe of the guy. Star Wars has changed my life in a lot of ways. It's given me and those I've worked with, I think, the opportunity to do things, be places, collaborate with certain people, tell certain stories that I think we probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise, and certainly grapple with all sorts of logistical and practical, and sometimes fascinating, issues and challenges. But at the end of the day, the thing that makes Star Wars work is its sense of humanity, its sense of adventure, its sense of heart, and the idea, the spirit of, the most average among us can be the most extraordinary person, and affect the outcome of and help defeat the most terrifying evil, and that's sort of an undeniable thing.
The thing that JJ said to me when we first met, first meeting the first time, was that I imagine a journey of a character where it's almost the opposite, just isolating the original trilogy. That the journey of someone who the opposite of Vader, where Vader starts the most confident, the most experienced, and over the course of 3 films is chipped away till he's his most vulnerable. And he had the idea of starting someone at that place and doing almost the exact opposite at the start of the 3rd movie. I didn't know at that point how the 3rd movie ended, but someone who almost starts the most vulnerable and the most susceptible, and kind of gradually becomes more and more hardened with experience he's had, gets deeper and deeper into the dark side. You find him at his most comfortable, like with the Knights of Ren. Before all those movies start, that's all he did was, be a grunt guy. So in a way, that's where he's most at home. It's diplomacy that he's always has trouble with. It's not having an emotional response and having a physical one is his problem. But in a way, what JJ and I had talked about, and what him and Chris wrote, is you almost find him the most himself. Working with Ian, I was really excited by, and but you get on set and you can't help but have him, get hit with, reliving these movies live, which is a pretty rare thing to have happen. You actually you get to act with, almost a memory, which was really exciting. The stunt team was, paramount. I mean, as they always are, but this one in particular, because there's so much fighting, But Eunice has a energy and a assuredness and a confidence that is really exciting to work with. There's lots of reasons why those movies have such longevity or touch so many different people from different cultures. Is its specificity with a story, but at the same time is so relatable. Being able to tell a very specific world, but make it applicable to such a large culture, and not sacrificing character for spectacle, even though spectacle is a huge part of that world.
Yesterday was my last day ever, I think, on a Star Wars set, at least as far as 3PO is concerned, because finally I did the last shot on episode 9, and it was strange for me, and quite moving, quite sort of, as they say, bittersweet moment. Making movies is hard work and fun, and the great joy for me, of course, is throughout Star Wars, I've been C-3PO all through the episodes, 1 to 9 now, and to finally hit the end was quite something. To have actually managed to survive this long, in every sense of the word, was it was a telling moment. I've been in Star Wars since day one, out in Tunisia in 1976, and that memory stays with me very. 3PO has never been a kind of protagonist. He's not the big hero character, of course, and he's more reactionary than somebody who actually promotes the action. But here he's with a group of people, Poe and Finn and Rey and Chewie, going off on this adventure to find the thing. It's always finding the thing, isn't it? And he's there in the thick of it. And above just being part of a delightful team, JJ and Chris wrote kind of sequences where other things built up. So 3PO's always had some kind of antagonism between him and another character. It used to be Han Solo was always really, really very rude to 3PO, very dismissive. But very good drama, It was delightful working with Harrison like that. And now in this one, you have Poe, Oscar Isaac. What can I say? Adorable, brilliant. And somehow within the writing, Poe just gets irritated with 3PO all the time. And 3PO is kind of oblivious, because Poe's a really nice guy, and he's kind of subtle about being irritated by 3PO. And the way Oscar plays it is just so wonderfully subtle and real. I'm like, does he have to come? You know, that's so cruel. And in rehearsal, Oscar and I just used to laugh at these delicious lines, these encounters between the two characters. When we first arrived in the desert, out in Jordan, about 45 minutes drive from Aqaba, you left the main road and suddenly you were out going towards distant hills, mountains, craggy rock faces. And it was an extraordinary moment because it wasn't the first desert I'd been in. The first desert was in Tunisia, sand dunes and all that. This was the desert in Jordan that Ralph McQuarrie must have had in mind when he painted that original picture of 3PO. These strange, craggy shapes with a kind of miasma of sand below them, so the whole thing kind of melted into one. It was heart-turning. And every day we would drive into the desert, and every day we'd see a new rock formation that exactly pictured what Ralph had thought about. So in a way, it was like 3PO coming home.
When you're an actor, you're always looking forward to doing some interesting things, and it was presented to me, and it wasn't a question of it being a leap of faith. I mean, I felt very fortunate. I felt very lucky. Listen, it's all an adventure, and that's the beauty of it. He is an absolute incredible human being. Now, again, that's one of the high points of my career, working with JJ. So imaginative and so much fun. It was one of the best moments of my career. I enjoy working with Daisy. I mean, she's a wonderful, extraordinary performer. In fact, I told her that I would love to see her play Joan of Arc. I think she would be fantastic. She's a lot of depth. There's a lot of presence. She's a very strong presence. Well, I think bringing all of us back in one way or another, I think is a great idea. So many people love those, especially those particular characters, me included. So I think this is going to be very big for a lot of people, for a lot of the fans. So I think they're looking forward to this. Is going to be huge. It's a great idea to somehow continue the whole relationship between these people.
He is a Star Wars fan. His knowledge is so huge, and then because he made Episode 7, his knowledge of that is so huge. The linking of it all together, I think, is amazing. And with Chris, who is like nerd, like I saw him with 10 versions of, what was the book? It was some canonized universe, something or other that I'd never seen before, and he had 10 versions of it. So his knowledge of that side is so huge. The combination, I think, is great. So Chris has these ideas, and then JJ sort of I feel like JJ gets it to the thing of us all understanding it. Because obviously JJ created it, so his dialogue really is what I understand. So I think it's a very worthy ending. I hope obviously other people do. But the feeling on set is one of joy, and I think everybody here feels really good about what we're doing. And I think that will go onto the screen. It's been really fun because I hadn't properly worked with Oscar before. We'd done like 2 tiny scenes together. And so when you come in, I think the first time you see us on screen, we're arguing. And JJ's thing was, it's been like a year, I think, since The Last Jedi, a year or 2 or something. And so he was basically like, your relationship has grown off screen. It's just the audience haven't seen it. And to come into a bit of a frictious friendship is really fun, because that's how friends are. They're like, you're annoying, shut up, I'm trying to do the right thing, so are you. And I really liked that. It was really fun playing that with Oscar too. And then John always being the guy that's like, oh my God, can we move on? It was great. It was great. And there are moments in it that are so sweet, so sweet. And there was a scene in the film where we sort of just hug for ages. And it was weird because we did it months ago, so we weren't even close to finishing, but it was so moving. And I think really that was the thing that made me think, this is the last one. Like, it's crazy. It was so sweet because I felt a real, his vibe is really nice. And then it was really sweet because we got out of the speeder and he was showing me pictures of his granddaughter and he said, I reminded her of him. I reminded him of her. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Because I sort of felt very, like, moved being with him. And then I thought, oh, maybe, I guess this is why, because there was some sort of connection. But he's such a suave man. He's just great. And I think in this, it is really moving, the stuff he has. It's great, and then it's really moving all of a sudden. Yeah, it's great. It's back. In terms of the acting stuff, I always knew that I would have a great time working with him, but the fight was a bit scary. But then once we got into it, it was pretty cool because I think we'd done a couple things together. We had done scenes together, but the fight, because it took so long, it's not often that you shoot something for 6 days. It was great in terms of communication, because I'd be like, oh, if you could just move a bit that way, and he'd be like, oh, if we could just start. It was really nice to be able to have that relationship, because you suddenly think, oh, it's more like a choreographed dance thing. And it felt like it really paid off, because I think we both really knew what we were doing and how we were feeling, and it was great. And then we picked up a scene yesterday that we had done his version of, and working with him is great. I think it will be really moving. I've found it's really emotional for me, at least, and I think it has been for other people. But it's really big themes that are sort of, if you took away the space element, it's just like people trying to figure it out and confronted with these really difficult obstacles. And that, I think, is the transcending thing of you could take this all away, and obviously the space thing is the thing, it's Star Wars, but it's these really moving small and big stories that are all interlinked, and how one thing cause and effect, like one thing, how that's affecting the fate of the galaxy. So hopefully people will feel that watching it.
I think reading this script for the first time, I was just thrilled. I think what they've managed to do at all stages is keep it surprising without feeling forced. You know, I think that's a really hard balance to strike, and I think that JJ and Chris really did a fantastic job about just keeping the surprises coming, but it all feeling part of the universe. You know, so I was thrilled when I read it, and yeah, proper page turner. I think as soon as you meet the First Order in this one, it's very clear that Hux is not vying with Kylo Ren for supremacy anymore. So the dynamic has changed utterly, because before they could both run to Dad, they could both run to Snoke and say he's misbehaved, and that's gone now. You know, Kylo Ren is in charge, so he still makes fun of Hux, and Hux is still at the end of some pretty stinging kind of jabs and stuff. But I think Kylo Ren is just not concerned with him anymore. You know, he's kept him there because it's easier than losing him. But I think he's suffering. I think objectively, Hux is evil, because his action. I mean, what defines you are your actions, and his actions are appalling, despite the fact that some of them end up working out for the good side. His actions over the course of 3 films is just like, there's many people died because of what he did. So I don't think you can think of him as a good person. And he did it all for personal glory and for because he was scared of something that was different. So yeah, I think objectively he is about as bad as a person can be. But he thinks he does it for the right reasons, you know. But it doesn't make it right.
It's very unexpected. It's a total surprise when about a year ago Yeah, it is that long. I had an email from JJ saying, is there a good time to call you? And where should I call you? So I emailed back to such and such a time, and this is the best phone number to get me on. And then he called me straight away and said, we're thinking of bringing back the Emperor. How do you feel? So I controlled myself. I said, well, sounds like a great idea. And I realized my voice had shot up there, and I thought, you won't want to cast me if I speak like that. And I said, well, that's wonderful. And he said, well, we're thinking about bringing him back because it would be just great to round off those 9 episodes, sort of the way we began in terms of the dark side. So that's when it started, and I'm in the middle of filming now, and I still can't believe it. Well, it's great. Most of my time is spent acting with Adam and with Daisy, both of whom are tremendous. I really like them as people and terrific as actors. And of course, I've been watching their work over the years, not just in the Star Wars saga. So, like everybody else, suddenly you meet these people who you've only really seen in large form on screen, and to find out they've got senses of humour and have great talent, I really didn't doubt that. In the flesh is great. So we've had, I'm hesitating about using the word fun because it's more complicated than fun, but it's very enjoyable, and it's always the same when you work with good serious actors. You know, you have an instant rapport, and I think we've got that.
With this one, it wraps it up in a nice red bow tie, and then you look back at the first film, The Force Awakens, you realise that everything has led to this moment. And for me, discussing that with JJ and talking to him about it creatively was something that was always a main topic for us, but something that I'm very, very excited about. You know, it felt nice to stand there with, and it's just me, Daisy, and Oscar. I'm kind of like, oh wow, like this is truly it. Like the 3, you know, main characters in this story, and it's a blessing and an honor. I definitely wanted Finn to eventually find his place, to have a team that he's fighting for, that he's rooting for. I wanted Finn to show blatant strength and not to have his strength always questioned when he's stood opposite any other character, which is something that JJ pushed as well. And for just to show him in a light that shows growth and more of an understanding of his world, of the people in it, of his past, emotionally at a better place than he was during The Force Awakens. And that's, I think, JJ's, you know, just reading the scripts, he's just ticking boxes, hitting the nail on the head with these scenes, being able to do that and be able to explore more about Finn. I think Finn's got his own thing, you know. I actually was looking at the costume. The gollets is something I haven't seen that before. Much more of a waistcoat situation. I know Han has his. Finn's one is kind of slightly better because obviously time's gone by, new style. He's actually doing colour coordination, which is something quite interesting, with the blue pants, blue and brown pants, and the brown waistcoat. I think I think it's dope. He's got new hair, you know, twists up the top, line up. Finn, you know, Finn went to the Resistance beauty camp, got a few, got a few clothes and a nice haircut. I like that, you know. In the stress of war, why not look good fighting? Billy D, that was cool. That was cool. Everybody knew when Billy D was coming to the set for the first time. I think I even dressed up a specific way just so that if he so happened to want a picture, I'd look slightly in colour coordination with his style, you know, with the round-collared shirts. He's the suavest man out here. And it was great working with him. It's good to see Lando back, another connection to the past that is very much needed. And it's good to see Lando come back in a role where he's actually here to help fully. Which for him as a character, I'm sure that's a great arc, you know, considering where he came from and his relationship with Han. But it's nice to see him in the suave yellow shirt with the cape. I was just looking at him like, I want a cape. For no reason. He don't even fly, he's got a cape. It's ridiculous. Suave man. It's inspirational, it's nice. It's nice to see that people love a character that you've helped create, and it's nice to see people being given a chance to express themselves. But one thing I'm way more impressed by is when I see the girls as Finn. I love it. I love it when I see their version. I actually post a few of them on my social media because it's nice to also know that we're not doing the codes anymore, that Finn appeals to everyone because of his story, which everyone kind of has to face, is a coming of age for a man or a woman. It's a stage of growth and a realization. Who do you want to be and what team do you want to fight for? And I think that seeing people dressed like Finn and Finn's image, it obviously means that he means something positive to them. His story means something positive to them. And it means something to me, and that makes me feel happy, man. Keep on rocking it.
He is a marvelous man and a spirited director, and we can be grateful to him for so many things, not the least of which is finding Daisy Ridley. Quite seriously, the cast for number 7 has been and is fabulous. The people that he's brought to it, and the spirit of renewal that he brought to the Star Wars saga. To go back to the beginning of all of this Star Wars business, I mean, the London Symphony, who contributed enormously to the energy and the sound of what Star Wars has been. An anecdote which probably will only interest those members in the orchestra at London, but the first day we did Star Wars with the big high C that starts it was the first day that a trumpeter called Maurice Murphy had been admitted as a member to the London Symphony Orchestra. So the first service he did with the London Orchestra was Star Wars recording number 1, and he came into the stage and blew that top C, which sort of blew the world's head off. And he's no longer with us, I'm sorry to say, but the story illustrates what energy and virtuosity that these orchestras bring to films in general. I always love to go out and do concerts of film music and play without film, and the audience is amazed at how the difficult things that orchestras do, the notes and the complications and all that, 90% of which goes unnoticed when you're watching the movie. You don't realize that that's happening to your ear and to your heart. With Ray's theme, I can treat it in the orchestra so that it's in a more grown-up way, which we tried to do. So you will hear it, but it's not quite as simply presented and quite as immediately accessible as you hear it now in more complex kind of settings. Something for people to notice or not notice, I don't know, but a lot of fun. Well, the legacy characters are fun, of course. I didn't expect to see Lando again. And I love seeing him in this film. And every time we see him, I think, correct me, I think the orchestra does something joyful. There's something in his face that you want to see. And Billy Williams he made a picture with Diane Ross some years ago about Billie Holiday where he was very young and very gorgeous. And he still is, he's still a dream. He talks about giving his love to Leia in the film, and it's delicious. This is a unique opportunity, and it's never happened in the theater and film, wherever, where a composer can keep working on the same corporal, however to think of it, body of work, and continue to add to it. What a privilege is that?
Well, I think to me, Chew has always resembled this epitome of loyalty and friendship, and coming with flaws, as of course. But he's when it comes down to it, he's a very stable, very trustworthy companion who you would want on a trip in a galaxy far, far away. That was one of the coolest things I've ever done, because it just to get to be in a same speeder with Daisy, who is just I see her as a Jedi nowadays. I mean, she so lives the character when we're filming that I have so much respect for her work, and I think we've become good friends during these films, and just that experience for both of us were very, very easy to endure because we had so much fun. I met Billy quite a few times before this movie, and to just meeting him for the first time after he's been announced as cast in this movie, it's just he's such a friendly honorable man. And to have him there, sit beside me on the Millennium Falcon, just felt like this flash of memories from the original trilogy, and how much his benign personality and just this kind of, he's such a warm soul.
We're at a place where things are dire, as they always are, and specifically with Rose, she's in a position where in the last film you saw her as this sort of mechanic that was in every woman, and now she's sort of worked her way up in the resistance, so she's in a more of a leadership position. It was incredible. I mean, there were so many times walking on set, I would just think to myself how many months it took for people to build this as well as design it. And that was definitely one of those moments. And there were so many scenes with so many resistance members, and it was just overwhelming. It really felt like you were there. So it was really, really cool. I think it's really cool to see Rose in a different way in this film. I think in the first one, you very much saw her as someone who was protecting, I mean, she still is very much protecting the people that she loves, but there's a little more physicality in this one, which I think is going to be really, really cool. There were so many scenes that we would shoot that I felt like I was in a video game. It was seriously wild. Yeah, so I'm really excited.
With Daisy, John, and Oscar, you know, they've been together in this crew, this tribe, for years now, and they have a really sweet, fun, rowdy chemistry together, and it's nice to be around. They're rowdy, and they're singing songs, and they're telling jokes, and being physical with each other. It's good. You know, they, in a way, have grown up together through this experience, this adventure. Unbelievably, whether it's shooting this tiny, intimate, emotional series about a girl going to college in New York, or this massive, epic Star Wars series, he's the same. JJ's the same. He just dreams big. I don't know how else to put it. He uses more of his brain than I do, certainly, and he's good at it. He loves movies. He loves them, and that's so apparent in his work. And he's just fun to work with, and I think that's why he succeeds. My scenes, I got to really work with a lot of the real actors, which was so helpful. And amazingly, Star Wars has these big, beautiful sets. You're not imagining that much of it because they've built these insanely massive, incredible sets. So you're actually in them, and you do feel like you're in Star Wars. You're like, I am in the galaxy right now.
I always thought it was so smart of George to include a character that was so accessible to young people. You know, they might be inhibited by royalty. You know, they like the princess, but they can't relate. They like Han Solo, but he's a gambler and a scoundrel and a rogue and all those things. And there's a wizard that, again, is magical, and scary characters like Darth Vader. But of all the characters, Luke was a simple farm boy. And the young people could relate to that. Like, oh, I could do that, or I would feel comfortable being around him. So I thought that was a really smart move. And I hope that if there's any lasting legacy of the character is the idea that you can accomplish anything you want if you believe in yourself and are selfless and willing to do what's right for the greater good. You know, he was a symbol of optimism, and I think that's probably the most satisfying aspect of it. Well, I'm so glad Billy Dee is in the final installment because he deserves it. I thought anybody that's still around, no matter how prominent or obscure, should come back. I would love that, but especially Billy Dee, because we were unknowns when we were cast, and when they cast Billy Dee in Empire, he was like a big movie star. We went, wow, lady sings the blues, and I won't go through his whole resume, but, he's just the smoothest, he's almost like an old school 1930s matinee idol. And he's just a really wonderful guy and fun to be around. And, he saved my life in Empire, so I owe him that. Well, the theme of redemption is important, not just in Star Wars, but in life. I mean, no one's perfect. Jedis make mistakes, I think that the Jedis aren't gods. They're people that are devoted to a higher power and doing what's right and what's good. But I think it's comforting for people to the idea that despite having done wrong, either intentionally or unintentionally, they're able to right those wrongs and be forgiven. Action speaks louder than words, and everybody deserves a second chance. Luke, obviously, as you come into this new generation of characters, Luke's story has been told. It's their story, and he, like Jiminy Cricket or like Obi-Wan, is there to sort of guide and offer advice from his experience. And I'm sure, yes, absolutely, recognize that element of danger for Rey. And of course, feeling guilt-ridden over his relationship with his nephew. So that's got to haunt him as well.
I've been working with Eunice and her team with the different ways that Jannah moves around, from like dismounting off of her oarback, or climbing, and how she fights, how she shoots her bow and arrow. So it's like a constant language that we're trying to build up with her, so that she really comes across as a trained fighter, and someone who is really adapted to working with the tools that she uses to fight and survive. And it's been incredible. Jannah has the coolest bow and arrow I have ever seen. It's two-handed, so she can swing it from one side to another. She's made arrows out of old piping and stuff like that. Everything she has is really made from her environment and what she can make the best out of. She's so resourceful. Even her shoes are old stormtrooper boots that she's cut down to size to make into something that she can travel better in. So the bow and arrow, it's both deadly and awesome looking. It's really cool. I love it. I think what Jannah sees in Rey is that she is going through what I think is a very universal human struggle of dealing with your dark side and your light side, and trying to, in any case, figure out what's right for you, but also what's right for the wider community, and in Rey's case, the universe. And Jannah sees that and wants to do anything to support that, because ultimately that struggle of finding yourself through the darkness is what makes you stronger on the other side. And she sees that in Rey. I think she sees that in Finn as well, and everyone else. They're all helping each other just kind of push through and really tackle what is quite a formidable force.
This episode 9, what JJ and Chris have done it's a monumental task. They've had to really find a way to encompass the entire Skywalker saga that's lasted for 40 plus years, and to find a way to meaningfully make it all feel both surprising and also inevitable. And I think that's exactly what they've done. I think once you get to the end, I know when I first read the script and I got to the end, I was so overcome with emotion because it had a finality to it, which it's just hard to imagine that Star Wars could ever have that, because I think one of the most amazing things about the Star Wars universe, and really what George Lucas did from the very get-go, is he made it feel like there was always so much story happening outside of the one you were watching. Every every prop, every character felt like it had its own long history, and we were just getting to see a glimpse. By starting with episode 4 originally, already you're starting in media res, you're starting in the middle of the story, and so people could just pour their imagination into, well, what was happening before? Who is this person? Where did this person come from? And I think the mystery of that is also what created such a phenomenon. And so to take all of that and to capture that spirit and bring it to a conclusion has been such an amazing task, and I think they've done an incredible. My first day on set was in the Millennium Falcon next to Jonas as Chewbacca, and then these crazy new aliens in there, and JJ just screaming all sorts of stuff at me to do this and do that, and it just there's just an energy to it. And also the thing that JJ brings is he brings so much fun. Lots of music in between takes. He'll beatbox randomly onto a microphone. He'll just say really dumb jokes on the microphone, and it just gives a looseness and it just reminds us that we're also playing. We're playing in this imaginary world, and at the same time, it can get super serious and tries to get to a real profound truth with these characters and what they're up against, but at the same time also finds the joy of it. What's been great about Daisy's Rey has been seeing the growth throughout these 3 films. I think when we first met her in The Force Awakens, she was just this incredible raw potential. Already had so much power within her, but she just had no way of harnessing it, had to discover that she even had that, and to witness that awakening. And then seeing that really challenged in the second film, and not understanding who she was and really desperately searching for these questions. And now we get to see the culmination of all of that pain and confusion and power channeled into just this ferocious and incredible character, and her performance in it is astounding. I think the other thing with John is, and the exciting thing about episode 9 is that this was a real chance for us to really work together. Thankfully, JJ and Chris Terrio were like, all right, we've kept them far apart enough. Let's put these guys together. And so we really get a chance to interact and to have fun, and then also to get into fights together. The tension really escalates between us the way that it does with people that are so close. And I think through that, my friendship with him just, got deeper and deeper, and I think you really see that come across in the movie. I was surprised by the passion of the fans and how that never seems to waver. That, you come to things like Celebration or D23 or Comic-Con and just how much it means to people over the years, and how that is also passed on to their kids, and just the lineage and the history of the whole thing. And I'm also surprised that to feel like I am a real part of that lineage and that history as well, and that it's not just these 3 movies, but that it has been this long, beautiful arc over these last 40+ years.
He is somebody that has absolutely no sense of humor, plays the highest status, and has an ambiguous attitude towards Kylo Ren. And I think, like all very ambitious people, and somebody who is of a certain age, which he is, there's a feeling that he is out for himself and would kill or do whatever was required to get ahead. So utterly ruthless, and working while apparently giving obeisance to Kylo Ren. I had no doubt in my mind that he thought, well, he could do a better job. So I suppose that's the nature of these kind of men. Pride, General Pride regards Hux as a lower form of amoeba, really. Just barely worth bothering with. So I think the sooner he can supersede him, the better. So, because Donald's such a good guy, it was extremely enjoyable to pull status on him, especially as he'd been in the films before I ever had. So I was like,
new bug on the first day at school, and he was, yeah, we've done all this. And I said, the dialogue, how do you learn this dialogue? With some of it's like techno speak, and he said, oh, don't worry about that. So he was very welcoming and encouraging. When you are facing somebody who is wearing a mask on top of that head, it is intimidating, because in real life unless somebody's covered in a balaclava, you can see the person's eyes, and you know what you're dealing with. You've got somebody dressed like him with this incredible presence that he has, physicality. It is, just by its nature, intimidating. Added to that, there is the intensity and commitment that he brings to playing this part. So the combination of the two make for an intimidating presence.